the news.
Hi, I'm Tessa with Brainrot News, with a few bits of news for you to choke on for March 16th. Hospitals are now rolling out AI nurses, like Anna, to monitor vital signs and prep patients for appointments, because nothing screams quality healthcare like outsourcing life and death situations to a glorified chatbot. Hospital execs claim this will fight nurse burnout, which is corporate speak for, "We've refused to hire enough staff, so now it's robots or nothing." While AI can handle some tasks, it can't replace human judgment. Imagine coding on a hospital bed, gasping for help, and instead of a real nurse, you get Anna calmly saying, "Your heart rate has dropped to a critical level. Would you like me to schedule an appointment?" The same technology that struggles to book your airline tickets is now in charge of keeping you alive. Of course, this isn't about helping patients, it's about cutting costs. AI doesn't need breaks, healthcare, or union protections. And if it misdiagnoses you, oops, software glitch. Meanwhile, real nurses fear being disciplined for overriding bad AI decisions. Nothing says efficiency like forcing medical professionals to argue with an algorithm while a patient flatlines. Nursing unions are not excited about this technological advancement because while AI can assist with routine tasks, it cannot replace human thoughts and compassion. Let's be clear, AI isn't replacing hospital administrators or CEOs. No, their six-figure jobs are safe. It's the actual workers, the ones doing the life-saving, that are getting replaced. If there's one thing corporations hate more than paying fair wages, it's admitting they need human beings to run a hospital. At this rate, the future of healthcare is just a series of automated chatbots, billing errors, and iPad doctors who tell you to consult your primary care provider. But don't worry, at least Anna will be polite while she misdiagnoses you. So congratulations, America. Your future hospital stays will be monitored by robots, your prescriptions will be approved by an algorithm, and if you dare question it, you'll be told to contact customer support, which of course will also be an AI that doesn't understand your problem. In a move as predictable as a Florida Man headline, the US launched airstrikes on Yemen's Houthi rebels. Why? The Houthi have been making shipping lanes in the Red Sea their personal target practice. Trump, a man who thinks de-escalation means using a bigger hammer, decided the best response was more explosions. The airstrikes targeted missile systems, radar sites, and the last remnants of nuance in the US foreign policy. The Houthi, backed by Iran, were attacking ships over their grievances with Israel's handling of Gaza. But Trump, never wanted to let a complex international crisis go to waste, framed the US strikes as a heroic stand for global stability. The operation was carried out by the USS Harry S. Truman, a ship named after the guy who dropped the first atomic bomb, just in case you were wondering what kind of energy we're bringing to this peacekeeping effort. Trump likely watched the missiles launch from his golf cart, adding Defender of Maritime Commerce to his resume, right between Bone Spurs survivor and man who totally won the 2020 election. The Trump administration just deported hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador, despite a federal judge explicitly telling them not to, because in Trump's America, the law is more of a suggestion. This is all thanks to a $6 million deal between the US and El Salvador, where the Salvadorian government agrees to warehouse these people in its notoriously overcrowded mega prison for a year. Think of it like a corporate outsourcing deal, but instead of call centers, it's human lives being shuffled around like bad Amazon packages. How did Trump justify this? By dusting off the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a law so old it was written by men who thought bleeding someone with leeches was top-tier medical care. This law lets the president expel nationals from adversarial nations during wartime. You know, because when you think of US enemies, you think fellow human beings trying to flee a collapsing country. Meanwhile, civil rights groups are screaming their lungs out about human rights abuses, because the prison where these deportees are being sent is famous for, let's say, not prioritizing inmate comfort. If anything, it's a real-time experiment in how many people you can stuff into a single room before it legally becomes a mass grave. Trump and Putin are scheduled for yet another phone call this week to discuss the so-called 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. And if that sentence made you roll your eyes so hard they almost fell out of your skull, congratulations, you have a functioning brain. Let's be real, a ceasefire negotiation doesn't involve two world-famous grifters playing footsie over a secured phone line. Trump's entire diplomatic strategy boils down to whatever he thinks makes him look good. And Putin plays the long game. A 30-day ceasefire means one thing: time to rearm, reposition, and recalibrate before launching an another attack. Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy and guy whose biggest qualification is being rich, says they're optimistic about reaching an agreement. Optimistic about convincing a man who poisons his enemies and invades sovereign nations for fun just to stop? That's like saying you're optimistic that a shark will go vegan. Meanwhile, Ukraine has agreed to the terms, probably because they don't want to look like bad guys for rejecting peace. And Putin, he's approved it in principle, which is Russian for "I'll pretend to think about it while I keep bombing civilians." And Trump will waltz out of this thinking he looks like some kind of peacemaker, when in reality he's just handing Putin more time to destroy Ukraine at a slower, more polite pace. In Trump's world, if a dictator likes you, you must be doing something right. Trump's administration just slashed 400 jobs from the Bureau of Reclamation, the agency that manages dams, water resources, and hydroelectric power across 17 states. Apparently, the real enemy isn't climate change or infrastructure decay, it's people who know how to keep a dam from collapsing. These layoffs include dam operators, engineers, and emergency managers. You know, people who literally prevent giant walls of water from turning towns into Atlantis. But sure, let's fire those guys. Industry experts are warning that this could increase the risk of catastrophic failures. But since when has risk of mass death ever stopped Trump from cutting corners? If anything, he probably sees this as an efficiency upgrade. Why spend money on safety when you can just not? This is all happening while states like California, Arizona, and Nevada are already running out of water. And when one of these dams does fail, because it's just a matter of time, Trump will probably say no one could have seen this coming, right before blaming immigrants for it. The latest storm system didn't just hit the US, it punched it hard. Tornadoes, wildfires, and dust storms killed at least 35 people across multiple states. Missouri took the biggest hit, reporting 12 tornado-related deaths, while Mississippi lost 6 people, Arkansas 3, Alabama 2, and Texas and Kansas were engulfed in dust storms so thick they looked like a live-action Mad Max sequel. This led to hazardous driving conditions, causing multiple vehicle accidents that claimed 11 lives. Oklahoma, not to be left out, caught fire and damaged 300 homes. Because when it rains, it pours, except when it burns. The National Weather Service issued tornado warnings stretching from the Carolinas to Florida, meaning this thing was so massive it basically looked at half of the country and said, "You're all screwed." And yet, despite an increasing number of record-breaking storms, floods, and infernos, Republicans are still out here claiming climate change is a hoax. Apparently, the only thing more indestructible than these storms is their stupidity. You could probably strap a Republican senator to a piece of plywood, yeet him into a Category 5 hurricane, and they'd come back screaming, "It's just a little wind." Insurance companies are likely already hard at work denying claims. Hey, at least we still have thoughts and prayers. That should definitely stop the next tornado from turning your neighborhood into splinters. 2 astronauts have finally been rescued from the International Space Station after being stranded there for 9 months. When NASA launched them last year on Boeing's Starliner spacecraft, the thing promptly broke down like a cheap used car, only instead of being stuck on the side of the road, they were floating in outer space. Those poor astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, were supposed to be on a quick trip, but thanks to Boeing's world-class engineering, their spacecraft was deemed unsafe for human return, which is a horrible thing to hear after you've been sent 250 miles above the Earth. So NASA had to send SpaceX, Elon Musk's vanity rocket company, to go get them, which means we now live in a timeline where Elon Musk was actually the solution to a problem for once. And honestly, that's deeply unsettling. I assume there were ulterior motives behind this act, but I'm glad they're home either way. Boeing is still out there, pretending they make a good spacecraft, despite their planes falling out of the sky. Maybe NASA should stop letting them build spaceships until they figure out how to keep airplanes in the air. Just a thought. The astronauts say they're grateful for their extended stay, because what else can they say? Actually, it sucked and we spent months wondering if NASA forgot about us? Anyway, welcome home, guys. Hope you enjoyed your 9-month cosmic hostage situation. In a bold display of free speech for me, but not for thee, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, better known as Lil Marco the lightweight choker, has declared South Africa's ambassador to the US, Ibrahim Rasool, persona non grata, which is diplomatic speak for get out and don't let the door hit you on the way. His crime? Pointing out that Trump is mobilizing white supremacist grievances like a magician pulling a never-ending string of Klansmen out of a hat. Rasool, speaking during a webinar, had the audacity to say the quiet part out loud, criticizing Trump's ongoing project of weaponizing white victimhood as the country's demographics shift. Because if there's one thing this administration will not tolerate, it's accurate observations about its own rhetoric. In response, Lil Marco, clearly angling for Employee of the Month at the Ministry of Fragile Ego, swiftly expelled Razul, ensuring that no foreigner shall ever tell America what it already knows but refuses to admit. Naturally, this diplomatic tantrum has made U.S.-South Africa relations even more awkward. Things were already tense over Africa's land expropriation laws and its refusal to kiss the ring of U.S. foreign policy. Trump's executive order, which cuts aid to South Africa on the grounds of unjust racial discrimination, has really taken things to the next level. That's right, the guy who literally campaigned on banning Muslims from entering the country is now deeply concerned about racial fairness. South Africa has responded with the patience of a parent dealing with a screaming toddler in a grocery store, expressing regret over the expulsion, reaffirming its commitment to diplomatic relations, because someone in this equation needs to act like an adult. With Trump now reshaping U.S. foreign policy into one long Fox News rant, expect more diplomatic crises where America simply throws a fit whenever someone points out that it's not wearing pants. So to recap, America, the self-proclaimed defender of free speech has expelled a diplomat for speaking freely, while Trump, who spent years crying about cancel culture, is now canceling ambassadors. The hypocrisy is so thick you could bottle it and sell it as Republican cologne. Trump just gutted Voice of America, the 83-year-old government-funded news agency that has spent decades countering authoritarian propaganda, because why bother having actual journalism when you can just let Fox News handle it? Every single VOA employee has been placed on paid leave, which is basically the government's way of saying, we don't want to outright fire you, but we'd really love it if you just never came back. And since VOA is known for actually exposing dictators instead of befriending them, it's not hard to see why this happened. This move also cripples other critical outlets like Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, and Radio Free Marti, media networks that exist to push back against state-controlled propaganda in authoritarian regimes, which, fun fact, makes shutting them down something that an authoritarian regime would totally do. Trump's official excuse is cost-cutting, because sure, that's where we need to save money, not on tax breaks for billionaires or endless military contracts or Trump's weekly golf trips, but on the voice of democracy. So yay, America. We just took another step towards having government-approved news networks where the only stories that are allowed are about how great Trump is and how immigrants are probably stealing your lunch money. Trump and Elon Musk, two of the most divorced men on Earth, have now set their sights on the real villains, dead people collecting Social Security checks. They're claiming that millions of dead people over 100 years old are somehow still receiving benefits, which, according to them, is clear evidence of fraud. The Social Security Administration, on the other hand, is standing over in the corner screaming, "That's not true, you morons." In reality, the error rate is less than 0.3%, which means that yes, some people are mistakenly listed as alive. The much bigger problem? People who are alive are being mistakenly declared dead. Thousands of Americans get cut off from benefits every year because the government accidentally kills them on paper. So now, thanks to Musk's new Department of Government Efficiency, seniors might have to start proving they're alive weekly at this rate. And if they don't, their benefits vanish faster than Trump's pretend morals. But don't worry, if you are dead and still getting a check, rest assured Trump and Musk are working around the clock to pry it out of your cold, dead, bony hands. Dr. Oz. Yes, the TV doctor who pushed miracle diet pills and pseudoscience has been nominated to oversee Medicare and Medicaid. That's kind of like putting an anti-vaxxer in charge of the HHS. When speaking with the Senate, Oz spent most of his time talking about AI and telemedicine, which is a fancy way of saying, we're going to replace your doctor with a chatbot that tells you to drink more water. When senators asked if he would cut Medicaid, he responded with pure, unfiltered politician nonsense. He danced around the question like it was a landmine, using phrases like sustainability and efficiency, which are definitely code for people are about to lose healthcare, but in a way that sounds less evil. Meanwhile, Republicans can't even agree on whether they want to defund Medicaid or just gut it slightly. Either way, if you're poor, disabled, or elderly, your healthcare might be about to turn into a GoFundMe campaign. What is Oz's actual plan for improving healthcare? Well, if his past is anything to go by, expect more crystals, detox teas, and vague hand gestures about energy flow, along with work requirements to get your healthcare. So good luck, America. Your healthcare system may now be in the hands of a guy who once tried to sell you raspberry ketones as a cure for obesity. That's it for Brainrot News. Like and subscribe. We keep you informed so you know exactly why you should be losing sleep.